Welcome to Stargate Codex. I am Dr. Elias Thorn, historian and decoder of ancient mysteries. Today, we explore another guarded secret from the temples and the stars, drawing from the profound works of Skye Alden. We will decode its power and how you can begin working with it. The Codex opens now. Imagine standing at the foot of a temple doorway as dawn breaks. Cool stone beneath your feet. Carved on the lintel above are concentric symbols, weathered by centuries, but still humming with ritual memory. A procession pauses, words are spoken, a threshold is crossed, and with that single step, identity, status, and perception shift. That doorway is not merely architecture. It is a living interface between worlds. In this episode, we call that interface the Threshold Stargate, and we will trace how doorways, lintels, and liminal rites were engineered to transform those who passed through them.
First, the teaching named the Threshold Stargate. At its simplest, a Threshold Stargate is a deliberately constructed liminal device, a doorway, lintel, or framed passage that encodes symbolic, architectural, and ritual instructions to guide a transition. You find this pattern across private homes, public sanctuaries, and the initiatory chambers of secret societies. In domestic settings, thresholds regulated protection, hospitality, and household rites. In temples, lintels and portals signaled stages of initiation, calibrating what could enter and what could be prepared for the sacred interior. And within groups like Freemasonry and Rosicrucian lodges, the threshold becomes a teaching surface. Every step, every board and symbol is an instrument of education and transformation.
A brief historical survey anchors this idea. In ancient Egypt, temple pylons and inner thresholds were often aligned to processional axes and celestial events. Lintels bore protective imagery, winged suns, uraeus serpents, and offering scenes that served both political and ritual functions. In Mediterranean sanctuaries, thresholds were sometimes raised or inset to mark a visible division between profane and sacred ground. Archaeology shows repeated attention to threshold stones, with worn steps and carved motifs that indicate repeated formalized crossings. Moving forward in time, Masonic lodges keep a symbolic threshold in their ritual. The tracing board, the placement of columns, the orientation of the lodge room, all teaching initiates about moral passage and inner work. Rosicrucian and Hermetic spaces similarly preserved threshold symbolism, keys, locks, and lintel inscriptions acting as mnemonic devices for stages of spiritual unfoldment. These are archaeological and documentary patterns, not speculation. Thresholds were intentionally designed and encoded across cultures as marked places of transition.
Now we decode the threshold on multiple levels. First, symbolic language. Look to repeated motifs: keys, rosettes, solar discs, paired pillars, and tripartite marks. Each one functions as an instruction. A key carved above a doorway teaches that something within must be unlocked by knowledge or rite. Paired pillars frame a liminal corridor. They hold the doorway's polarity, above and below, inside and outside. Numerics matter. 3s speak to initiation triads. 7s often map stages of refinement. 9s or 12 map cosmological orders. Inscriptions, whether a short invocation or a sequence of abbreviated signs, operate like an encoded manual for movement. Initiatory logic here is practical. The symbols cue the senses, shape expectation, and concentrate attention so that crossing becomes an intentional, prepared act rather than an accidental passage. Next, the energetic and cosmological mechanics. Materials and proportion were not accidental. Stone, bronze fittings, and precious metals were chosen for their durability and for how they hold and reflect light and sound. A heavy lintel shaped to a proportion, sometimes tied to the same ratios found elsewhere in sacred architecture, acts as a resonant element. Alignment matters. Entrances set along solstitial axes or sightlines to a star can channel seasonal light into a sanctum,
marking moments for initiation. In some contact narratives and ancient cosmologies, thresholds are described as transducers, surfaces that convert one register of being into another. Read responsibly, that language often points to the same engineering principle. A threshold concentrates attention, shapes ritual timing, and channels environmental forces so that the inner work has a scaffold. These are mechanisms of design and psychology as much as metaphysics.
From decoding to practical activation, a concise, safe, 3-step threshold anchor you can use to ethically reclaim liminal space and ground sovereignty. Step 1. Identify and intend. Choose a personal threshold in your own life or home. It may be your front door, the doorway to a workspace, or even a domestic table where transitions happen. Stand before it, name the transition you seek, initiation, boundary, abundance, integration, and set a clear ethical intention. Step 2. Ground and align. With intention held, use a simple bodily anchor. 3 slow breaths into the belly, place your feet firmly and feel connection to the ground. On the last exhale, allow a small physical gesture, a fingertip on the lintel, or placing a hand over your heart to mark the crossing. Step 3. Close and integrate. After you cross, offer a brief gratitude and a small reversible symbolic act to close the passage, a whispered line, an affirmation, or the extinguishing of a candle. This seals the threshold without altering any physical or cultural heritage. Practicing the anchor daily for a week stabilizes the new pattern. Cautions: never modify historical sites or sacred objects. Always request permission when working in shared or living cultural spaces. Stop immediately if the practice produces distress and seek support. A note on risks and safeguards. Liminal activations can bring up strong emotion or unexpected material. That is normal. Thresholds were designed to touch deeper layers of psyche. If you feel overwhelmed, pause the practice. Ground by focusing on breath and the physical sensations of the body, and reach out to a trusted friend or professional. Ethically, avoid cultural appropriation. Attribute sources, seek permission, and prefer symbolic, personally relevant practice over adopting living rites without guidance. Finally, protect physical heritage. Never carve, alter, or remove architectural elements. Treat ancient thresholds as teachers, not toys.
To recap, thresholds are engineered interfaces, symbol-laden, proportioned, and often aligned, that transform passage into initiation. The threshold Stargate is both architecture and instruction, a device to train attention, calibrate timing, and anchor transitions. For those ready to practice, begin small with the 3-step threshold anchor. Honor the contexts you work in and prioritize integration and community. If you are called to deeper protocols, the full historical context, the layered symbol charts, and extended activations, explore the transformative books of Skye Alden, which expand on the practices and provide guided, ethically framed protocols.
That is the ancient gate we decoded today. That is the hidden teaching. And that is your activation. For the complete historical depth, symbols, and practices, explore the transformative books of Skye Alden. The gate is open. The codex awaits.